Today we're diving into the ASEAN Development Outlook Report, and it tells a really fascinating story. It's a story with a paradox at its heart. You've got this region that is an absolute powerhouse of economic growth. But the report asks a pretty tough question. Is all that growth built on a foundation of sand? Let's get into it. So, let's start with the big headline number. By the year 2050, the ASEAN region, which is home to over 650 million people, by the way, is on track to become the world's fourth largest economy. I mean, just think about that. It's an incredible testament to just how dynamic this part of the world is. Okay, but here's the catch. This is where that paradox really kicks in. The report argues that the very thing driving this incredible success has also created some deep, really significant risks. And these are risks that could threaten the whole thing.
To really get our heads around this, we first need to appreciate the sheer scale of what we're talking about. ASEAN isn't just one country, right? It's this huge, vibrant mosaic of different cultures, economies, and landscapes, and they're all fueling this economic miracle together. And this slide really puts that raw potential into perspective. You've got 650 million people scattered across something like 20,000 islands. It has the third largest labor force on the entire planet, and it's powered by this incredible diversity. This right here, this is the engine that's been driving all that growth. But this is where the story takes a bit of a dark turn, because that same powerful engine of growth has been putting enormous pressure on the region's natural environment. It's creating a foundation that the report warns is becoming, well, dangerously fragile. And the cost of that fragility? Oh, it's very, very real. For some of the less wealthy ASEAN countries, the economic hit they take every year from natural disasters can be as high as 7% of their entire GDP. That's a huge blow that can literally wipe out years and years of progress in an instant. This chart tells such a powerful story about the imbalance here. What you're seeing is the ecological footprint for each person, and the difference is just stark. Wealthier nations like Singapore have a massive footprint because of high consumption. Meanwhile, countries like Laos PDR have a tiny fraction of that impact. So the wealthier nations are really driving a regional environmental cost that is definitely not being shared equally.
And that imbalance in consumption leads straight to an imbalance in risk. So for countries like Cambodia and Laos PDR, a huge chunk of their national wealth is tied directly to their natural resources, their forests, their rivers. But for a high GDP nation like Singapore, it's a tiny slice of the pie. What this means is that when environmental disaster hits, it hurts the people who depend most on the natural world, the very people who've actually contributed the least to the problem.
And it's not just one thing. These threats are all connected. You've got the haze from fires that chokes major cities. You have the loss of peatlands, which, by the way, are these incredible carbon sinks. Urban growth is threatening biodiversity, and widespread pesticide use risks poisoning water and food supplies. Any one of these is a major challenge, but put them all together, you're looking at a systemic crisis.
Now, beyond all the environmental damage, there's also a deep social cost. The report is really clear on this. The incredible wealth that's been generated in the region, well, it hasn't been a rising tide that lifts all boats. For a lot of people, the water hasn't risen at all.
This quote from the report is just so powerful. It talks about something called intersectional invisibility. So picture this, an elderly indigenous woman living in a remote rural area. She faces disadvantages not just because she's a woman or because she's elderly or indigenous or rural, but because all of those identities overlap and stack on top of each other. And the result is that her voice gets muted and her needs become effectively invisible to the people making policy. And that invisibility leads to what the report calls capability traps. These are basically structural dead ends, places where it doesn't matter how hard someone works, their situation just doesn't get any better. They're part of the economy, sure, but the terms are so bad that they're just stuck. It's a system where opportunities might exist on paper, but they're not actually accessible to everyone.
So, you've got these deep environmental costs and these deep social costs. What's the way out? Well, the report argues for something pretty radical. It's not just about new policies, it's about a completely new way of thinking about what words like development and progress even mean. At the very heart of this new vision is something called the capability approach. So instead of just measuring GDP, this way of thinking asks a totally different question. Do people have the real freedom and the genuine opportunities to live the kind of life that they value? See? It shifts the focus away from just money and puts it squarely on human potential. This diagram here really helps break it down. On the left, you've got a resource. Let's say a new school is built. But the model shows how all these personal and social factors, like, say, a family needing their child to work instead, can stop that resource from turning into a real opportunity for an education. It's a recognition that just providing things isn't enough. You have to tackle the real-world barriers people face.
And this, right here, is the fundamental shift. The old model was all about chasing GDP growth and just kind of hoping that the benefits would eventually trickle down to everybody. This new model completely flips the script. It says the real goal of development is to expand human freedom and well-being directly. Economic growth then becomes a tool to get there, not the end goal itself.
All right, so with this new way of thinking in mind, the report then looks to the future. It identifies these huge forces of change that are going to shape ASEAN over the next few decades. And these forces bring both huge challenges and some incredible opportunities to actually put this new human-centered vision into practice.
The first big force is demographics. Just look at the population pyramid for 2020. It's wide at the bottom, full of young people. Now look at the projection for 2100. It's basically becoming a rectangle. This is the graying of ASEAN. And this shift is going to completely change the game for healthcare, for social security, for the entire workforce.
And the second major force? You guessed it, technology. The fourth industrial revolution isn't some sci-fi concept for the future. It is here, right now. And it's reshaping everything, economies, jobs, daily life, across the entire region. And one technology in particular is leading the charge: AI.
And AI is really at the forefront of this whole revolution. The digital economy is now in what you could call the AI reality phase. We're seeing it everywhere. Video commerce, powered by AI recommendations, is just exploding. AI-driven ad formats are fueling massive growth. And the big players are investing heavily, with new AI research labs popping up right in the middle of the region. This is a real game changer. And that brings us to the final, and maybe the most critical question of all. We've got this new vision for development that's focused on people, and we have this incredibly powerful new tool in AI and technology. So, can these tools be used to finally solve those deep-seated problems of environmental damage and inequality? Can they help build a truly inclusive, sustainable ASEAN? Or will they just make the old model of growth faster and deepen the very divides the region is trying so hard to heal? That is the challenge and the opportunity that lies ahead.